This room used to be the place we shut the door on. Boxes everywhere, no plan, no system, and in a few weeks, mostly after bedtime, during prep periods at work, and just during spare moments of time, we turned it into this. If you're new here, I'm Wes. I'm a full-time teacher, a dad, and I'm documenting what it looks like to build things. Murals, rooms, projects, in the margins of real life. And this one is for my wife. My wife has a home office she uses for her part-time job. When we moved in, it became the room where everything landed. It didn't need to be organized, at least that's what we told ourselves, because her clients only saw her from the neck up on these video calls. But she works hard for her family, and I wanted to give her a space that felt intentional. The plan was simple. Try to put cabinets on both sides of the desk that we have, bookshelves above, one long countertop tying everything together, and a mural on the feature wall inspired by a book that she loves. The first step was clearing the room completely, or as completely as I could without disrupting my wife being able to use her office. Then I designed the mural digitally using references I found online and a similar mural I'd done in our old house. I sketched it out on my computer so I could project it later. That mural is its own video, but it shaped everything else in this room. I picked up plywood from Lowe's, poplar for the cabinets since it's affordable but solid enough. I don't have a table saw at home, so I built most of the cabinet boxes at school during prep time and before classes started, so 30-minute windows. Transporting wood back and forth, pocket hole jig, framing everything out piece by piece. It wasn't glamorous, just consistent small chunks of work. At night, after the kids were asleep, I prepped the room, taping ceilings, floors, window trim, door frames, closet door frames. Prep honestly took longer than almost anything else. That's usually how it goes. I reinforced the desk we bought from Facebook Marketplace so that it could more easily support the load of a countertop and eventually bookshelves that would sit on top of the countertop. My son helped for part of that, screwing in supports while my daughter napped. It wasn't fast, but it was ours. Again, during a prep at work, I built a simple jig to drill evenly spaced peg holes for adjustable shelves. It took some time to make, but it did save time everywhere else. I also worked on creating the covers to the toe kicks of the cabinets. We chose a new wall color, and I focused on cutting clean edges around every corner. I didn't paint areas that would be hidden by cabinets. No point wasting time where no one's going to see it. I wanted to make sure outlets would stay accessible after everything was installed, so I carefully measured where I needed to cut the backs of the cabinets later. Over the next few days at school, I continued to work on putting the box frames of the cabinets together. I made sure to make the face frames of the cabinets so that they would be wider on the sides that would eventually be against the walls of the room. This would allow space for the cabinet door to open without smacking the adjacent wall. Unfortunately, rolling the walls happened over the span of a couple of nights. I ran out of paint, but it gave me time to make sure I really had a good coat of paint in the corners of the room and around in each room. I left the mural wall mostly untouched since that would get its own set of colors aside from the top of the mural, which stayed the same color as the rest of the room. I spent about 4 nights working on the mural itself. You can check out that separate video on my channel, but it did become the anchor for the entire room. With Christmas fast approaching, I rushed to finish the cabinet doors. I had a lot of help from the tech ed teacher, who was a huge lifesaver during this entire process, but especially for the doors to these cabinets. They're certainly not perfect. Minimal sanding after caulking. I'm not a professional woodworker. My wife understands that, but my wife didn't expect doors, and I just wanted everything to feel as finished as possible. After making the doors, I brought everything home for Christmas break so that we could install the cabinets before the new year. My wife spent a night painting the cabinets the same color that she painted the desk. Everything she paints makes it look 10 times better than what it was, so she did a great job of making my cabinets look pretty phenomenal. I spent some time taking the remaining painter's tape off the walls and I wanted to make sure where the studs were in the wall before installing the cabinets and eventually building and installing the bookshelves. Then it got to the point where I needed to prep the room for installing the cabinets. I had to remove trim near the floor using a multi-tool so that the cabinets would go flush against the walls. Interesting fact, I did some research and learned from a contractor that it is not completely necessary to remove the floorboards for a job like this, as long as I didn't plan on screwing anything into the floor directly. The floorboards would still have the ability to move. Next, I attached the back panels to the desk and cabinets with a brad nail gun and cut outlet access points in the back of the desk and cabinets with a multi-tool. Once the cabinets were in place, I cut internal cord passages from inside the cabinet to inside the desk cabinet with a hole bit for my drill, so everything could stay hidden but still accessible once everything was in place. Leveling took time, shims, sanding, readjusting shims again. But when everything slid into place with barely any gap, that felt really good. Once it was all in place, I screwed the cabinets into the studs in the wall along the support I made in the back of the cabinets. We cut the countertop to size, leaving a little room for movement on both sides so the countertop has room to breathe over time. Drywall bows more than I expected, so the gap wasn't perfectly even front to back. If I did it again, I'd probably adjust for that, but we had to move quickly because once you open a countertop from its plastic shipping bag, you've got about 24 to 48 hours before it won't accept stain or a sealant. I screwed the countertop to the cabinets from underneath using slotted pilot holes that I made following the length of the countertop, hand tight enough to allow expansion and shifting. I drilled holes into the desk above where the wall outlets were on the wall to help hide cords when plugging computers or lights in from above the desk. My wife sanded and sealed the countertop using 2 coats of sealant at least 4 hours apart from each other. I installed the cabinet doors using a hinge jig. Adjustable hinges saved me. I've never done any of this before, so everything had a learning curve. These hinges were no exception. There was a small illness stretch in there too, where we had to place most of the kids' toys in the room on the countertop to give us time to clean them all. Tools kind of stacked up and toys ended up being everywhere, but progress kept happening. I bought more 3/4 inch plywood for the shelves, less expensive this time. It wasn't Poplar. I tried designing them so that the long shelves could bear weight over time without bowing, which required adding a support in the back to each shelf that would be screwed into the wall studs, including a face on the front of the shelves. I built the frames at school, added face frames. I spent hours caulking and sanding seams smooth at home before my wife spent about double the amount of time painting the shelves. My wife painted the bookshelves while I reinstalled the trim, added another coat of paint behind the shelves, and cleaned up the space a little bit. This was not her first rodeo painting furniture in our house. I can't emphasize enough how much of an expert she is at painting furniture, so she did another wonderful job of making my clunky looking shelves turn out to look professionally done. Just as she did with the amateur cabinets that I built and the rather beat up desk she bought from Facebook Marketplace. I screwed the shelves directly into the studs using the built-in supports I designed at the back of the shelves. I really tried my best to design the bookshelves so that the shelves themselves would not sag over time. Time will tell, but I'm confident that it will hold up for longer than I will live. I added additional cord access near the window side of each bookshelf so any cord stayed internal to the wall. I countersunk screws, applied some wood filler, waited for everything to dry to sand over the filler, and then my wife went back and did some touch-up work with the paint so that you couldn't see where it was screwed into the wall. My wife was so excited to get out her books from the closet and begin organizing them to place them on her new shelves. She spent a few hours while the kids were sleeping at night, and I just let her do her thing. She was an English teacher and loves her books. This collection means a great deal to her. Unfortunately, the shelves didn't even hold all of them, so I'll be building another set of bookshelves in the basement. I know my wife was skeptical I'd finish this whole thing. She knows I don't work with wood, like, at all. But when it all came together, the mural, the cabinets, the shelves, the colors, she was genuinely happy and excited in that space. And that's what mattered. This channel is mostly about murals, about building a creative side hustle one wall at a time. But this project matters just as much, because it shows how I operate. If I say I'm going to build something, I plan it. Maybe too much, but then I execute it in small windows of time. The mural colors were chosen intentionally to fit the desk, the cabinets, and the bookshelves. The cabinets and bookshelves were built to fit around the window and the desk where we wanted to place it. Everything was intentional. That's how I approach client spaces too. Not just painting walls, but building something that fits the life around it. Thanks for following along with this project, and with this one out of the way, I'll be back to chasing my dreams of creating my mural side hustle one wall at a time.